Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming to It's Okay to Be Okay. And I'm Jen. I'm with Melissa and Crystal, and today we have a very special guest, Dr. Dicken Bettinger.
Hi, Dicken.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
It's been it's an honor to have you on here, and thank you for taking the time. And with that, we're all having a day, so we're gonna listen to some wisdom from Dr. Dicken Bettinger.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, I had been a psychologist for 10 years, and I came across understanding that changed my whole understanding of psychology. And it was based on the discovery of three universal forces that are responsible for creating our experience moment to moment. And so they're really quite simple. The power of thought is what allows us to have mental activity and think. What a gift. I mean, when we're born, we're given this power. Oh my God. We couldn't have any mental activity without the power of thought. We couldn't think. We couldn't see. We couldn't hear. We couldn't feel. Then there's the power of consciousness, which is what allows us to be aware of life. And it's also the power that takes any thought we have and turns it into an experience. So if you have a sad thought, the power of consciousness turns it into the experience of sadness. If you have a happy thought, it takes that thought and turns it into the experience of happiness. Whatever we think, we're going to feel. As a matter of fact, it explains that 100% of what we feel is created from the power of thought and consciousness working together. Then you have the power of mind. And we've always thought in psychology our mind was our brain. But think of a computer. It can't work without a power source. You wouldn't call it a computer. It couldn't compute without a power source. And mind is the power source for human beings. It's an intelligence that knows how to create via thought and consciousness every moment of our experience. It's the same intelligence that knows how to create life and operate life. I mean, I think it's a miracle just that we exist. At one point, we weren't here, and then we were here, and then we could see and hear and feel and speak. But this explains any moment of experience any of us can have, no matter what the experience, whether we experience great agony or great bliss, it's all being created in the moment via the power of thought and consciousness. Now, you could say, well, what difference does that make? Well, it changed my life. It's changed. I've worked with thousands of clients all over the world. It's changing their lives. It's extremely empowering. And let me explain what I mean. If most people, when they feel tension, stress, or upset, and it sticks around, if you ask them why they feel that way, you know what they say?
Something out there.
Something out there. Something in the world made them feel that way. So the traffic makes us upset. So now we're the victim of traffic. What somebody says to us makes us sad or hurts our feelings. Now we're a victim of what people say. And scientifically, it doesn't work that way. You could say something horrible to a group of people, and guess what? Everybody has a different experience depending on how they think about what happened. My wife and I go to a movie. We watch the same movie. I go, "That was so good." And she goes, "I didn't like it."
That's funny because when you said that, Dicken, that's exactly what I pictured was a bunch of people in a theater having a different experience of the same movie.
Everybody has a different experience all the time, which is very cool. We're given this power of thought when we're born, and we can use that power of thought to create beautiful movies in our life, or we can use that power of thought to create scary movies, angry movies, war movies.
Yeah.
Now, think of it like at night. Whatever mental activity we have at night, it turns into our dreams. We're having a nightmare and we wake up and we go, "Oh, thank God it was just a dream. I was being chased by the bear, and now I realize it was just a dream." When I started to realize I'm the dreamer during my day, I'm the thinker. And during the day, I can think up scary movies just like I can at night, but I can also become aware that I'm doing that. Because remember, I'm a conscious being. I can become aware that I'm creating that movie and wake up and go, thank God it's just thought. You know what happens if you let go of upsetting thought?
They pass.
Goes away, passes, changes on its own. You just leave it alone and it changes. It's like that movie only exists as long as we think it. No matter what you're feeling, that feeling will only exist as long as you think it. When your thinking changes, you have a different movie.
Won't it?
One,
Sorry, go
one
ahead.
more thing I want to add, and then we can talk about this. There's also another great discovery about the principle of mind. It's very intelligent. So that if we stop making up scary movies and our head clears, this deeper intelligence will bring us well-being. It's unbelievable. In other words, if you let go of upsetting thought, you'll start to feel better. Why? Because we're built to feel better. We already have inside of us peace, joy, love. And when our head's clear of what we're thinking and we're just present, we start to feel better. The feeling of being fully present is a beautiful feeling. So that was the combination of learning to understand how the power of thought creates experience and learning that we already have innate well-being can change a person's life, anybody's, because there's no end to the insights we can have about either of those two things.
You know, I think that's like this understanding has changed my life so much that I'm no longer medicated. I'm no longer a yeller. I'm no longer at my boiling point all the time. It is spilled over into my family, into my kids, into my husband, into my
Mhm,
we
mhm.
shall all be medicated for mental health. Even my youngest for his ADHD and his autism. And today, at this point, none of us are medicated.
Mm.
And we're all doing better than when we were medicated.
Mhm.
And it's that powerful of not having to fight your thoughts. When you see that if you leave them alone and they just drift away, they fall away without you
Right?
having to do it. But I think so much of the time we get caught up on that, "Ooh, I don't want this and I have to get rid of it. So I have to use the 3 principles and I have to do that," that we complicate it and we catch those feelings.
Yeah.
And, always looking for the how to. And if I know this, why am I still holding on to it, right?
Mm. Well, I love what you're saying, Jennifer, about once you start understanding how the mind works, you begin to see that often we get caught up in thinking that keeps our feelings of tension, stress alive. We keep feeding it. We keep the dream going. And then you catch yourself. And when any human being wakes up out of a thought movie and comes back to the present moment, to the now, that thought movie will begin to dissipate and fall away naturally. And what replaces it is our well being. We start to feel better. And the fact that then it's very interesting when we feel horrible, when we feel stressed, when we feel upset, it becomes something helpful to us. It's letting us know, it's like biofeedback. It lets us know when we're getting caught up in our own negative script, our own negative thinking. And it becomes an invitation, like an alarm clock, to wake us back up to the present moment. Because in the present moment, you can't hold on to any of those upsetting thoughts. And they flow, they pass, they dissipate, they melt, they go away, however you want to think about it. That was mind blowing for me when I learned this. I started catching myself thinking up worry. And when I'd come back to the present moment, the worry would dissipate and go away. So very quickly, I had about 60% less anxiety in my life. And like you said, it can change. You can go from living without an understanding of how the power of thought works and be, they say people who are depressed spend 85% of their day creating negative movies. And when they start to realize that, they come back to the now, those movies fall away and they become less and less burdened by negative thought, and then their well-being surfaces. It's how we all work. We all work. We all think. We all have well-being inside at all times, and it only gets covered up when we get caught up in thought and start thinking that what we're thinking is true rather than just a movie. It's the only way we can suffer psychologically. We get caught up in thought, think it's true, and suffer. And I've worked with people with every psychiatric diagnosis, and it's still one problem. And they still have perfect well-being inside, whether they know it or not. Because in a session, when they get present and their head clears, they become kind, friendly, warm, they smile, they laugh. It's built into us.
What would you say to those people that are really struggling right now? In that they're in that thought storm and they can't get out and they think that their mind's against them and they're so loud here that they can't really hear you right now. How would you help those kinds of people?
Well, I've been there so many times myself that I can understand what it's like when we're caught up in thought and thinking it's true. It's like being in a nightmare and thinking that's your life, rather than that's just what I'm dreaming. I'm the dreamer. And so I have a lot of compassion for people who are caught up in suffering, because at times I am too. Even still, sometimes I get caught up in my thinking, and then I'll start feeling really lousy. And at some point, though, I start to realize that I'm a thinker. At some point, I realize that I still have well-being inside, and that when my mind clears, that well-being will come forward again, just like it always has. Every time I've been upset, at some point it passes and I feel better. And so the more people begin to listen to how the mind works and listen to the evidence for the fact that they have innate well-being, that client or that person will start having their own insights about that being true for them. Because it's true for everybody. All human beings think, all human beings are aware, all human beings have a deeper wisdom and well-being built into the life fabric of life itself. We're all the same. So when people are suffering, when they begin to listen to how the mind works and listen to their own capacity for well-being and begin to recognize the truth of that. I was working with a woman who was labeled clinically depressed, and as she became present in the session, pretty soon we were laughing, and I said to her, "Right now you're not depressed?" And she says, "Yes, I am." Because she hadn't learned yet that if you have a cloudy day, that can be cloudy for a week, when the clouds part, there's always blue sky of presence, and then the sun shines through. And the sun is evidence that there's a sun. The light is evidence, right? At any moment when we start feeling good is evidence that we have innate well-being. So with someone who's suffering, I would say, listen to someone talking about the three principles: thought, consciousness, and mind. Listen to them talk about how the mind works, how thought is what's always creating our experience. And when you let go of negative thought, it always changes to a more positive thinking. Why is that? Because of your innate well-being. And as people listen, at a certain point, it'll click in. It did for me. Clicked in. I'd been a worrier my whole life, and I thought my anxiety was because of the situations I was in. I didn't know it was always because of how I was thinking about the situation. As I let go of the thoughts creating my anxiety, it started to go away. In psychology, we call that being resilient. You get upset, you come back to the present moment, and you get over it quicker. That's being resilient. My 5-year-old, she's now 6, just turned 6, granddaughter, most of the time she's in the present moment and just living in her well-being and laughing and running around and playing. And then once in a while, she has a complete meltdown. Oh, end of the world meltdown. But she doesn't do what adults do, and she doesn't keep analyzing and thinking. She comes back to the present moment. Watch little kids when they get upset. They come back to the present moment. And it's only in the present moment we can access well-being. She comes back to the present moment, and within a few minutes, she's over her massive meltdown upset. She's resilient. Well, every adult is resilient. We're all built to be that way. Built to be that way. But you can't think your way out of an upset feeling. No one can. I can't. I tried. Most adults, when they feel stress or tension, you know what they do? Innocently,
Eat it.
more thinking.
Mhm.
Well, and I think my biggest thing, it was engaging with the content of my thinking.
Yeah.
Once I stepped out of the content and stopped trying to analyze and battle every single thought
Yeah.
and just started seeing the thought process. Oh, those are my crazy thoughts. That's some bipolar mania thoughts right there. Probably don't want to listen to those. Don't want to get into that, you know? And, but there was always certain ones that I struggled with. And it's because I always went to the content of that
Mm.
thinking. And what I'm kind of getting at, yeah, once we not really label it, but see the process of the thinking, no matter what the content, like we all have
Yes.
processes, right? You know, we have the process of overwhelm, we have the process of anger. And when we can see that process and call it and allow it to be, instead of reaching in and grabbing all the content out and trying to empty it, I think that's what helped quiet my head a lot because I used to have a very loud,
Wow.
noisy head.
I can remember one of the first times I saw that the content of my thinking when I'm upset is just made up thought. Um, I had a very important letter to mail, and I had to, at lunchtime, take it with me to the mailbox so that it could get out in time. And lunchtime came. I left my office, was walking down the street. I was a block and a half down the street, and I remembered I forgot the letter. And I started thinking, oh, you're so stupid. You knew you had to mail that. It was sitting right there. That's the content.
Yeah.
I'm stupid. I should have known better. Why didn't I bring it with me? What's wrong with me? Now, in the past, without understanding that thought is creating our experience, I could have spent the next hour thinking about that. I used to. I'd still, even that night, I'd say, I can't believe I forgot that letter. God, it was so important. I blew it. And so what begins to happen as you understand how the mind works, when you feel distress, it's a signal letting you know you're caught up in negative content and that there's nothing you need to do but take your attention off that content. And that's what you're telling me you learned to do, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And when I learned to do that, I was going down the street. I'm thinking I'm stupid. I turn around. I'm walking back to my office. And all of a sudden, I realized that I was the thinker. And you know what happened? I started laughing. It was like, oh my God, I'm just making this up. I'm just making up this story that I'm stupid because I forgot to do something. I'm just making up my crazy. And I just laughed. And I enjoyed my walk back, got the letter, enjoyed coming back down, walking a couple blocks, putting it in the mailbox, and it got to the post office in time. It's just, I started catching myself waking up out of the content of my thinking. I love how you're saying it. Coming back to the now and going on with my day. That's what little kids do. Yeah. I like becoming more like that in my life.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. You know what I used to do, Dicken, before I came to the principles and the understanding? I played the what if game.
Tell me about it.
the what if game all the time, right? You know what I figured out just recently, even though I've been around the principles now for about 3.5 years, but
Mhm.
just recently hit me. There's no winner to the what if game. You're never going to win it. So why do we play it? You know? And I just kind of giggled at myself for all the years that I played the what if game because it's never what if something really amazing happens. It's always what if, oh my gosh, I blow this. What if, oh my gosh, technology fails me today. The what if game,
Yeah.
never a winner. Don't play it. Don't play it. That's my advice to everybody.
Beautiful, beautiful. All of us have learned habits of thinking. Some people are good at worrying. Some people are good at judging. Some people are good at fearful thoughts. Some people are good at angry thoughts. Some people are, and it's just a habit of thought. We weren't born with that. In psychology, we call that our conditioned thinking. It's a combination of memory and negative thought habits. And everybody has those things stored in their head. And you can be walking down the street and suddenly something can trigger a memory, and suddenly you feel bad or feel anxious or feel upset. When you know that that's normal for that to happen, and that when it happens, it's just an opportunity to realize that that distress is just a friend reminding you that beyond your thinking, there's your well-being. And it's like when you put your hand on a hot stove, the pain is a good thing. And without a technique, you go, oh, you take your hand off the stove. When you realize one problem, holding on to hot thoughts, upsetting thoughts, distressing thoughts, you start taking your hand off your thinking. You take your hand off the content. You come back to the now, go on with your day, and anything then can flow through you. Doesn't get stuck, it flows. You start living in the flow of life. You stop being frightened of fear and upset and stress. If it's just flowing through you, it's not a problem, it's just thought. Start living in well-being more often. It's built into us to be that way.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a good place to stop. I know it's short and sweet, and maybe we can talk about this again at another time. Uh, if you're interested in learning more about this, you can talk to Jennifer or Crystal or Melissa, or you can go to a website like 3pgc.org. And they have lots of free materials for people who are starting out to learn about this. Or you can go to sydneybanks.com, and there's lots of videos. The man I learned this from, you can go to my YouTube channel, Dicken Bettinger, and you will find lots of talks where I give talks about what we're calling the three principles: thought, consciousness, and mind, the power of thought to create our life experience, and the innate capacity we all have for well-being.
Thank you so much, Dicken, for joining us.
Oh, you're
And
welcome. My pleasure.
Thank
You guys are
uh,
fun. We'll have to do this again sometime.
yes, absolutely. You just let us know when, and we will make the time.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, Crystal. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you. And thanks for your patience with the technical issues.
Yeah.
I'm used to it, so we got here anyway. Okay, take care.
Dear